Hey guys, what's up? We're back with another post DLC 2 Crown Tundra Pokemon analysis for the SSOU metagame. Today we're going to be discussing Dragonite, but before we get into that, I just want to say I just made a new Twitter account for my YouTube channel. If you guys want to check that out, the link will be below in the description. And also, if you guys could hit that subscribe button, I'm really trying to grow this channel with DLC 2 coming in just a few days, so that would be great. I know that some of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you guys just hit that button, it really just one click, that's all I'm asking for. It'd be great, thank you so much. But anyway, guys, we're going to be discussing Dragonite today. Dragonite's actually a Pokemon that's been kind of underwhelming the last couple of generations, unfortunately. It went from being an OU mainstay in Generation 4, and then in Generation 5 as well, with the addition of Dream World ability Multiscale, to being, unfortunately, a bit less effective in Generation 6, and then much less effective in Generation 7. While there have been some exploits such as Dragon Dance Fly, Substitute Roost with Magnezone support, and some sets on screen teams with weakness policy, helping it, use Dragon Dance and get a huge boost if it takes a Moonblast or Hidden Power Ice and then sweeping through teams, it has ultimately been very underwhelming. In fact, it's even been UUBL at points, I believe. So yeah, what will bring Dragonite back to its old OU glory? Well, I personally believe this generation has the tools to do just that, thanks to new additions to the metagame such as Heavy Duty Boots and the move Dual Wing Beat that Dragonite happens to have in its move pool. So we're going to go ahead and go through some possible sets that Dragonite could use, as well as some other options. We're going to also talk about some team support it might appreciate, and then we're going to go into potential checks and counters to it that you might see in the metagame. Do I think Dragonite's going to be an absolute world beater that's going to define OU like it did at points in Generation 5? No, I honestly don't. I think it'll probably be fringe OU, maybe like seeing 5 to 10% usage, but not a top 10 to 15 Pokemon in the metagame, unfortunately. But I still think it'll be viable, very viable, and that's really what we're looking for here. I'm kind of curious to see how the metagame will develop around it and how the combination of Heavy Duty Boots and Multiscale will ultimately deploy the viability of Dragonite this generation. So yeah, first off, we're going to be discussing just a standard to attack set. So I want to first notice that this set and the next set, the first two sets, are going to mainly rely upon the support of Magnezone, in a sense that, okay, so Dual Wing Beat is a great stab. It's going to hit Fairy types, neutral damage to Clefable at +1. You can do a nice chunk to Clefable, and with Roost plus Multiscale, you can definitely, tank Clefable pretty nicely, actually, believe it or not. So that's cool. And at +1 Dual Wing Beat, it's going to do a number of things like, Tapu Bulu, and it's super effectively, it's probably going to kill it, and Tapu Lele might be able to kill it after Stealth Rock, for example, and even things like Tapu Fini if it's especially defensive as well, so it's going to be really helpful. And then Earthquake hits most steel types like Heatran and Magearna, which is likely to be released, and also some other flying resists like Tyranitar and even Rhyperior. But the thing is that it's not going to hit the trio of Steel Birds, Corviknight, which came with the initial generation, Skarmory, which was released in DLC 1, and now Celesteela, which is going to be released in DLC 2. So having Magnezone support for that trio, as well as chipping things down like Scizor or Magearna, put them in range for things like Earthquake and Dual Wing Beat, can go such a long way. Therefore, I'd strongly recommend using a combination of Magnezone and Dragonite if you're running sets without a fire move. Yeah, so that'll go a long way here. I'd say, but if you're able to, get those Pokemon out of the equation, then this Dragonite looks like an absolute world beater. Keep in mind that if you're able to Roost all the way up to full, things like Moonblast will just shrug off, and then you could, for example, live a multi-scale Moonblast, which is going to be doing like 30%, into a follow-up Moonblast doing like 60%, and that means that, you could go for Dragon Dance and Roost, and live those, that'd be cool. But I honestly think that you might even run even more bulk than this, especially on the next set, which is going to be dropping Earthquake for substitutes. You could actually function as a PP staller a little bit, and you could just abuse Multiscale to the fullest. Of course, you are relying now on Mono Flying coverage, so it's going to be support reliant. You're going to want to have hazards up on the other side. You're going to want to make sure your item is still intact. You're going to want to have that Magnezone support, but overall, a core like that seems like it's a really cool concept in the perspective metagame. And once things settle down and we ban all the additional turbulent stuff that is going to absolutely cloud the tier of figuring out what's truly viable and what's not, I think Dragonite could very well have a place in the metagame with a set like this, or a set like the initial one with Earthquake over Substitute. And you can definitely run a different sped. I personally have Max Speed Plus here, if only just to outrun things like Scarf Latios, which can be around the tier, Scarf Lele, +1 Volcarona, at +2 speed. So that could come in handy, but there are definitely other things to do it. And I just want to note that Dragonite actually serves as a pretty good counter to Volcarona nowadays, since it has Dual Wing Beat, which is absolutely going to demolish it. It lives things like boosted Psychics, and there's no Hidden Power Ice in this game anymore. So that's really cool. Other things it'll do well against are like Shifu Rapid Strike, Keldeo. You go down the list. Other fire types it should do decently against as well. Blaziken, for example, it resists the stabs of. Grass types like Rillaboom should do well against, less so Tapu Bulu as it gained access to Play Rough. But yeah, no. Tangrowth it should do well against as well without Hidden Power. So there's definitely some openings for Dragonite in the metagame. However, there are also more offensive sets that don't even necessarily rely so much around finesse and recovery, but much on the contrary, rather, they I just gotta bring this back. I'm not sure if I looped it. My bad. Unprofessional moment. Yeah, I did loop it. Okay, that's great. Definitely check out Mew more, by the way. Some amazing music there. But anyway, that aside, I do want to say that next up, Dragonite, it can run a more offensive set. The idea here is that you're going to be using dual wing boot plus fire punch. You are going to miss out on hitting Keytran, but just about everything else you're going to be able to hit, which is fine. You get some chip on Netran, and I feel like Adamant plus Extreme Speed is better here. Extreme Speed, helps with revenge killing abilities. Also makes so that opposing priority users are going to get prioritized if they're chipped, and a boosted Extreme Speed to do really well against it. This kind of reminds you of the old black and white type of offenses for your attacks, Dragonite, but you're going without Outrage here. You don't need Lumberry necessarily. You can abuse multi-scale a bit more, and you got dual wing beat. So I think this can be really cool on more offensive teams. I'm really curious to see how it develops in the metagame. It definitely is going to be a bit more reliant on, say, chip and support in terms of, willing things down defensively. And I think that's kind of one of the main drawbacks of Dragonite, in that it doesn't really want to be one everything, even with the Dragon Dance, but later on in games when things are chipped down and it gets that speed boost, it's going to be super dangerous, and you got to be careful about that. I think at +1 here with Adamant, it's actually slower than Dragapult and Zeraora, which is the main thing I don't love about it. So you might want to shift it to plus speed anyway, but I'll leave that up to your interpretation, guys. You might be able to get a second Dragon Dance at some point. One thing that's annoying is Dragon Darts is going to be able to break multi-scale, and in a second it'll hit actually like full. But it actually doesn't kill from full health, I believe. So that can come in handy as well. I'll have to wait and see. But yeah, no, unfortunately you can't Extreme Speed a Dragapult, so you got to be careful there. Next up, I'm thinking a mix set with Thunder Wave could be cool. The main things that are going to wall this set are things like Tapu Fini, Tapu Lele, and Fable. As they'll be able to stomach a Draco Meteor, and they don't mind Fire Blast. Things like, Magearna and Tapu Bulu obviously can stomach a Draco, but aren't going to let Fire Blast. So I feel like, Thunder Wave hits those like fairies that can wall you, and Heat Trance, it's cool. You can potentially run something like Earthquake Blast as well, but yeah, like I'm kind of, this is more of a special attacking variant on the offensive end, so I think like Mixed Knight could be cool too. And a mixed set could be cool. I'm thinking it could maybe be like one of the mixed utility set. Like, this is what I came up with. There's a ton of different other options you could go with as well. We'll get to in a minute. But yeah, this set can only function on being a defogger. You got Adamant dual wing beat the pressure things like Clefable, which I think might return to running more specially defensive sets due to the abundance of special attackers. And then again, like Latios, Flamethrower is going to be able to hit some steel types as well. Yeah, again, you can't cover everything. It kind of depends on 4 move slot syndrome, but that's all right. It's still going to be able to hit a fair amount of things, and there's a ton of utility you can do between Defog, Thunder Wave, things like, Heal Bell. And then again, you could run Outrage like a classical set, Hurricane if you want to go full special without the Wing Beat, and Ice Beam as well hits Landorus, and also you can get a one-shot on Guard Jump if you don't want to run like Outrage or Draco, but you're running the Wing Beat as your stab. Yeah, it's fair. There are a lot of options with Dragonite, all things considered, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to go in the metagame. Honestly, I think the main thing it has going for it is probably going to be the combination of Vividity Boost and Multi-Scale, and I think that'll mainly be applied to Dragon Dance sets. I think they're going to thrive far more often than the utility sets. In fact, I'm really curious about this offensive Dragon Dance set that I came up with here. I think it might see some usage on both the offensive teams. I think you might want to go plus speed, though, if only to outrun Zeraora and Dragapult to +1, as without that, it's going to be hard. I think those Pokemon are going to remain common in the metagame, so yeah, but regardless of that, it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to think about Dragonite, as it's been something that's been pretty heavily requested, but personally, I think it'll definitely be OU, but it won't like thrive in OU. It'll be like a B minus ranked Pokemon in OU, where it's definitely viable, and it has some, good usage on solid teams, but like, it's not a world beater. No one's thinking it's broken. No one's thinking it's even like close to top tier, but it's fine. It's balanced. It's good. So I think that'd be what we'd love to see out of Dragonite, and I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. But now we're going to get into some checks and counters to Dragonite that you might encounter in a metagame. And the first one's going to be Rhyperior. Due to dual wing beat being used over Outrage especially, it's going to be able to shrug off Earthquakes as well, even a +1. And the combination of Rock Blast, which not only can break a substitute, break multi-scale, but also in Swords Dance, and just being very tanky on the physical end, coupled with having a ton of attack, will make it a good answer to especially any physical variant of Dragonite, unless it finds a way to run Aqua Tail, or potentially even run Waterfall, I guess, which maybe you could run like a Rain Team with Dragonite. I don't know. People did that in Black-White on occasion, but I don't see much reason doing that now. It does get some mid-rounds like Heatran, plus hitting other steel types like Celesteela, Corviknight, and Skymarine Rain, but even then, if you're not hitting those 3 super effectively, an Earthquake, a Waterfall, and Rain is going to do a ton, Aqua Tail and Rain is going to do a ton, so you kind of got to be careful there, and I think that's really fringe at best, yeah. Next up is Clefable, which should still be able to tank dual wing beats okay. Moonblast, of course, can hit super effectively. You can knock off the boots, or even run a Thunder Wave set if you want to cripple it in the long haul. Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do, but you got to be careful there nonetheless. So, proceed with caution, I guess, is my best piece of advice there. More of a check than a counter, but you can definitely do the trick at the right situation. Next up, we have Celesteela, which can, Heavy Slam to break sub eventually, or just get a Leech Seed off and Leech Protect shenanigan with Heavy Slam starts out damaging Roost, or doing enough to stall out the Roosts. And That's really hard for Dragonite to deal with, honestly. Of course, the +1 Thunder Punch can do a lot, even if it's physically defensive, but you can be careful, you can manage around that. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's about all there is to it. There's no hidden power ice this generation. I don't see people running Toxic on this. Flamethrower is too important for specific steel types like Fire Thorn and Scizor, so yeah, I think it goes without saying. So Steel will do pretty well against Dragonite, lacking like Fire Blast or boosted Fire Punch, I'd say. Next up is Landorus T, which with Sword Stance plus Stone Edge can definitely out 1v1 Dragonite, if that makes sense. It can't switch in repeatedly. It does have enough natural bulk, that's watch out for mix sets, but also boosted dual wing beat's gonna do a number, and you can't kill with one Stone Edge through multi-skill, so you gotta be careful in the long haul, but it definitely can be a nice check. Next up, we have Weezing Galar. Weezing Galar, it has Strange Steam, which is actually going to be really helpful, hitting it super effectively, especially when you're pairing it with Will-O-Wisp and neutralizing gas. I think it negates multi-scale. I haven't actually played an interaction like that before, so let me know if you know how that works in the comments below. I'm actually kind of curious, but it should be a serviceable check or counter to it. I don't think it's going to see much usage in the metagame, though. I feel like a lot of other fairy types are going to kind of overwhelm it, but we'll have to wait and see. And last, but certainly not least, there's also Skarmory, which can Whirlwind it out. If it's Brave Bird plus Toxic over Body Press plus Whirlwind, that could work too. Yeah, no, Skarmory's always done pretty well against Dragonite. Dragonite should even live 2 +1 Fire Punches most of the time, so yeah. And I think that about does it. So let me know your thoughts on Dragonite in the SSOU metagame. I know this is one of the more brief Pokemon analysis videos, but it's Pokemon that we definitely have to explore with, as it gained a lot of new tools, be it heavy-duty boots or access to dual wing beat. And in addition, that multi-scale is a concept that's kind of foreign to this metagame as we see it currently. So I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about it, how it develops in the metagame. Will it, end up falling to the depths of lower tiers once more and potentially finish in UUBL or even UU? Or will it finally thrive with these new additions and find itself a mainstay in the overused metagame once again? Let me know what you guys hypothesize. And also, if you guys could, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below. That'd be great. Check out my Twitter, join the Discord server, and just have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. I love where the channel's going, and I'm super excited to make more of these videos. So, all right, guys, peace out for now. Have a great day. Bye, guys.